From the signing of the profit-sharing agreement between this country and Venezuela to export gas from the Dragon field to the award of 3 deep water blocks to a consortium of BP and Shell, the energy sector is keeping busy with a lot of developments. And so joining us this morning to talk about some of these developments and his budget wish list is President and CEO of the Energy Chamber, Dr. Thackwray Dax Driver. Dr. Driver, good morning.
Good morning.
I know everybody calls you Dax, but I also do admire your first name.
Oh, thank you.
Now, we've been talking about, as I would have mentioned, we have so many developments happening as it relates to the signing of the contracts, the awards, that sort of thing. Tell us what that means for us in TNT.
I mean, this is all very good news. What we have seen happen in the last few days, we've had the Dragon field agreement being signed. That's hopefully going to open up the export of natural gas from Venezuela to Trinidad to help increase the amount of gas we have available in the country.
Yes.
We have the deep water bid rounds.
And I know that we are just talking to, of course, Dr. Thackwray Dax Driver, the President and CEO of the Energy Chamber of TNT. We had so much going on over the past few days, as you would have mentioned, that signing with the Ministry of Energy and Energy Affairs, Minister Stuart Young, with the President of Venezuela, Mr. Maduro, as we opened up that Dragon gas field, and we actually wanted to see how we can partner in terms of not just exporting of that natural gas, but also that profit sharing that's happening. We also had the signing of that consortium with BPTT and Shell TT as we allow them to drill and as we can keep, opening up the hydrocarbon sector. A lot of people have been asking for the ministry and the government, rather, to look at diversifying the economy. But one of the things that the minister has always said is that we need to see how we can keep that hydrocarbon sector going, because that is our lifeline at this time. So with all the developments that's happening in the energy sector, I believe that a lot of people will be welcoming it. We also look forward to the budget talks or the budget announcement on Monday, just to see exactly how much the budget or how much of that piece of pie the energy ministry is going to get. And so before we get to the budget wish list, I want to get back to some of those developments, because you were talking about how it's going to benefit us as an island.
So I think that the real issue, sort of the big overarching issue for the country, is that our gas production has fallen quite significantly in the past decade or so. We went from sort of 4 BCF of natural gas, BCF being billion cubic feet of gas, down to about 3 billion cubic feet of gas per day. So that fall means that we have a lot of assets which are now idle. You have at Atlantic and at Point Lisas. So these are assets which can be utilised to process natural gas and creates wealth for the country. So the big challenge for the country is how do we increase that gas production, or we can also import natural gas from Venezuela. So those are the two things which we're sort of very much working on. So the deep water bid rounds are important because that allows you to explore more acreage. Hopefully you're going to get some more resources from that, and then you begin to produce this. That'll take a long time, but it is it's starting on that process. And so that really is what the big focus is how do we get back to that 4 billion cubic feet of gas per day to use all the assets, which then allows us to export more. That creates, and you're sort of talking about the impact for the ordinary person.
Yes.
As the country is able to export more, we generate more US dollars. We know the issues which people are facing about accessing US dollars, and the problem that has created the lack of foreign exchange. So obviously, the more foreign exchange you can bring into the country, the better. So that is sort of a big drive that we have in the industry. That's the sort of the short term or the medium term sort of drive, increasing our gas production. We have to look long term as well about how do we then green, decarbonize what we're producing, because the world is demanding that this happens. So the commodities that you sell internationally have to have a lower carbon footprint. These are the changes which are taking place. So we have to make investments to make that happen. But you have to have the industry running while that goes on.
So here's the thing, Dr. Driver.
You have to do both these things at the same time.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We understand as well that hydrocarbon is a depleting resource. And so some people may ask, why are we having all these investments, these long-term, as you mentioned, knowing that in a few years we may not have it again? Shouldn't we switch gears to focus on diversifying the economy to see where else we can get that forex from?
This is, so I think that the expression I think a lot of people are now using this is an and conversation, not an or conversation. So we need to have the industry strong, increase production, and at the same time do this do this
diversification.
The decarbonisation of the sector, that's part of it, and then also diversification into other industries as well. We put a lot of effort around increasing export of energy services. There's a lot of opportunities in the region, obviously with Suriname and Guyana as these sort of two growth markets for our energy services. That's also exports there. So the diversification opportunities are there. But you need to have that strong base from the existing industry as well. So we need to and, not or.
Yeah, as we ramp up production as well.
Yes.
Now, I understand that the Energy Chamber also has a 6-point plan to ramp up that production to get us back where we need to be. In a nutshell, can you give us exactly what that 6-point plan is?
Well, the 6 points are, one, about doing things faster, the approvals process, speeding that up that whole process of getting the approvals done. Secondly, the fiscal reform, the taxation reform, which is really the focus for the budget, and I'll talk a little bit more about that just now.
Yeah.
Third thing is diverting natural gas away from electricity to the petrochemical sector. That's through renewable energy and energy efficiency.
Are we talking solar?
Solar, wind, and just being more efficient as well in how we're using electricity. Decarbonising our the products which we are selling. That's through investments in Point Lisas and at Atlantic, and bringing in green hydrogen, for example. Fourthly, making sure we bring fifthly, bringing small fields into production. There are small gas fields which are there, but we have to find the way to bring those into production. And then finally, the point about bringing natural gas in from our neighbours and importing natural gas.
Yeah.
So those are 6 points. For the budget, obviously, our big focus in the budget is around taxation. Our budget is about how do you tax and how do you spend.
Yes.
So our focus is on the tax side, and what's the structure of taxation? Not just SPT, that's one of the issues which we've talked about a lot, but there's also then just the royalties, how the profit taxes work, and really what we're looking for is changes which will encourage investment. We saw changes last year, in the budget last year. That resulted in the onshore bid round, which happened at the end of the year, having a very positive response. So that's a sort of change where you can see the response of the industry to the taxation changes.
Right,
so you incentivize investment, and then the industry will invest, and then that will later on result in increased production, more money for the government as the production goes up. So that's the balance that you have to get.
Yeah. How can we encourage that ease of doing business to ensure that we get the investments that we need?
Sure. I think this is a very important point. You have to be able to do things fast. And we did a study in 2019 which showed it took on average 12 years between a bid round and actually getting first natural gas from a development. It's a very long time. We don't have the time to spend so long doing these things. We have to make the processes faster.
Yeah.
Do things in parallel. That means investing in systems and digitization in the Ministry of Energy and all the other approval processes, doing things in parallel, just making things work very fast.
Coming out of the pandemic, Mr. Dr. Driver, one of the things you said is that it can no longer be business as usual.
Exactly.
If we are serious about this country's energy sector progressing, we need to be moving faster. Tell us about that.
Well, that's really the point, that the faster you can bring these resources on, the more valuable they are. This idea about the time value of money.
Yes.
$1 million now is more valuable than $1 million in 3 years' time. So do things quickly. Get the production now. So that's really just about trying to make things happen faster, not making the approvals processes less rigorous, but just making them more efficient. So there's times when we can do things in parallel. So not having to do things just one after the other, and one agency waiting for the next agency to complete something before it starts something, but actually run those things in parallel, run them faster, reduce the time between acreage being offered and people signing production sharing contracts and first gas, creates a lot of additional value,
right,
which then encourages the investments and is more value for the country from our resources.
Yeah. Dr. Driver, I know you mentioned some of the things on your budget wish list, of course, key among them being the revision of the taxes. But do you think the liberalisation of the fuel sector, as they have been discussing, is now a good time to implement that? And what are some of the benefits or even challenges you could see with doing something like that?
Well, I think it is a good time. It's something which we have supported, liberalising the fuel sector. We've seen the volumes of transport fuels declining, the sales declining over the last years, which is actually good because we've been subsidising that. So the less you're selling, the better it is. So more energy efficient vehicles, hybrid cars,
Right, yes.
electric cars coming in now as well.
Yes.
It's a small at the moment, but it's coming. Yeah, that's good because we're not then using as much foreign exchange importing those fuels to the country. The liberalisation of the retail market, we think, will allow the retail end of the business to invest more, to be able to ensure that they're giving good quality product and services to the country. So that's something which we support. We don't think this is something which the government should go on subsidising like has happened in the past. But obviously you have to do that carefully as you remove that subsidy. But it has largely been removed for premium and super gasoline over the last few years. So that adjustment has already sort of been made, but now liberalising the sector we think is the right thing to do, allow individual entrepreneurs to take over the retail network and create a really good, modern, efficient retail network for transport fuels.
Now, that might be good for the people who have the gas stations, but for the average citizen, do we see maybe a challenge of price gouging depending on which pump you go to?
No, well, that's why competition stops that from happening. So competition and making information available is the way that you prevent that, as happens in the rest of the world.
Yeah, so it is a good model that they can look for.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right. And tell me, what else is on your budget wish list? As we're talking about taxes, we're talking about liberalisation. What else do you expect to see coming out, especially the piece of the pie that the Ministry of Energy is going to get?
Well, I mean, our focus isn't really on a piece of the pie for the Ministry of Energy. The Ministry of Energy is the agency which creates the pie, which is then shared by the rest of the country. So our emphasis is on the things that need to happen to increase investment in the energy sector, to then increase gas production. There are things which I think everyone will be looking for, the commitments around the VAT repayments. That this very slow refunds of VAT to the business sector does create a lot of problems in the energy industry as well. So that's something which we would obviously like to see a commitment from the government that VAT refunds will be made on a timely basis. And then just the commitments, I think, around the things I've been talking about, this sort of longer term view around decarbonising the industry, the development of the green hydrogen industry as well.
Yeah. There was a 4-point plan as well that you gave, and one of the things you mentioned was breaking silo decision making in the public service. Yeah. How do you think this is going to affect the energy industry? Some of the benefits that we can see coming out of that.
Well, that's really what I was talking about there, about making sure that you have a vision and everyone across all the ministries is working towards that same vision. At the moment, there are times when it seems a little bit like different ministries might be pulling slightly in different directions, which then makes everything a bit slower, because then it has to sort of be resolved and go to cabinet, and the decision and it takes a long process. Whereas if you're clear that everyone is pulling in the same direction, then things will move faster. Yeah.
Can we also speak to some of the other developments that's been happening in the energy sector? There was a conversation with Morobeni, is it? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Tell us about that one.
Well, so these, we are seeing visits from international investors to the country. Morobeni are a major investment in the power generation sector in the country. So they were talking with them, with the Minister of Energy, it seems from his releases, about investing in future in green renewable energy, in wind and solar, and also energy efficiency, being more efficient in how we're generating electricity. We have a visit this week from the senior leadership of a company called Hydrogen de France, HDF, who are looking to make a major investment in the production of green hydrogen in Point Lisas. That's a project which has been going through the investment cycle, and hopefully they'll come out and we'll actually see an investment decision being made. What that does is it takes renewable energy from solar. The solar project is in Point Lisas, is under construction. It started. This is the BP and Shell investment. It's great for the country. It's a major solar project. So take those green electrons and some electricity created from the waste, which is heat which is being wasted from power generation. Use that to create low carbon electricity, which then you can use to create green hydrogen from water. And the market for green hydrogen are the existing ammonia plants in Point Lisas, because at the moment those ammonia plants have something called grey hydrogen, which was hydrogen produced from natural gas. And the idea is to begin to substitute that with green hydrogen, which is hydrogen produced from water. and it's the low carbon hydrogen. That's the way the direction the world is going in, and we have this major potential project in Trinidad, and it'll be good to see that moving forward.
Off the ground. Dr. Driver, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We should have you back again after the budget reading to pick your brain some more, but we will do with this for now. So thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And that was President and CEO of the Energy Chamber of TNT, Dr. Thackwray Dax Driver, just giving us an update on some of the developments that's happening in the energy sector and what's on his budget wish list, not just for the energy sector, but the budget as a whole. On the Now Morning Show, we're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.